Good morning. It is Wednesday, September 9th, and that means it is Wednesday of National Suicide Prevention Week. We talked about this yesterday, so we won't talk about it a whole lot more, though I told you I'd have a quote for you every day this week, and here is this week's quote. And here's what it says, today's quote. There we go. When we are in the bad place, we have to ride it out, because there will be many better times, many better versions of us, which we can reach simply by holding on. Somebody named Matt Haig said that. And that's hanging in my office, because I think it's a really good thing to try to keep in mind when I feel bad. So if that's helpful to you, I'm glad. If you know someone you think it will be helpful to, I hope you'll share that with them either today or just keep it in your pocket so that you could share it with them when you think it will be helpful to them. Today I would like to talk about a question that somebody asked. You may remember recently in the morning video I asked, is there anything that you would like to know about COVID-19 that you aren't getting answered with the news or whatever? Anything else that we've already talked about. And someone asked the question. I thought this was a really good question. I have heard that the numbers that are being reported for people who are sick or people who are dying are not accurate or not truthful. And they asked what I thought about that. So I think, as with many questions that people ask, if that person is curious about it, then chances are a dozen other people are too. And it is something that's important to discuss and to know about. So I'm actually going to address that question in two different parts. First, is COVID-19 a big deal, period? Because I'm hearing two different sides of this. And second, what do the testing numbers look like? And are they accurate and truthful or not? So the first part of that question is COVID-19 even a big deal or no? And the answer to that lies somewhere in the middle of the two sides that we are hearing in this country right now. This has become a really heavily politicized issue, and I'm not going to take sides on that in this video, but I want to talk about what I'm hearing from other people about COVID-19. Let me say a couple things before we start on this. First, what was I going to say? Oh, I have a Neil deGrasse Tyson quote. I know, two quotes in one day. I have a Neil deGrasse Tyson quote on the window next to my classroom door, and it says, "The good thing about science is that it's true whether or not you believe in it." And I think that's a really good thing to keep in mind when we're talking about this public health issue, because whatever anybody says about it, whatever their personal opinion is about it, the facts are, here's what science says about COVID-19, and this is what's going on. And our opinions about it, while they're important, really don't change the illness itself or how many people are being affected by it. I mean, they kind of do, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And the other thing I want to say is that I absolutely hate that this has become such a politicized issue in this country. What that means is that different political parties have very different perspectives and thoughts about the public health crisis that is coronavirus and COVID-19. And that drives me crazy, because it's not a political issue, it's a public health issue. And that's a fact that I want you to sit with while we talk today. So, is this a serious thing? One side, one big group of people in this country is saying, nah, it's no big deal. It's just an effort to ruin the economy, or it's a political conspiracy or whatever. And the thing that I think speaks to that most clearly is the fact that every nation in the world is being affected by COVID-19. And Scientists are working together to try to solve the problem and come up with treatments and vaccines. Governments are reporting problems despite measures that they're taking. All the nations, except maybe the teeny tiny ones, but pretty much the whole world is reporting serious illness and mortality from COVID-19. And considering the fact that all the nations in the world can't agree on literally anything else and can't be united on their stance on everything from redacted. Considering the fact that so many nations on earth are so opposed to each other on everything else, it seems really far-fetched to me and to many people that every nation on earth would be part of this well-organized conspiracy to make COVID-19 seem like a bigger deal than it is. However, on the other side, there are groups in this country who feel like COVID-19 is an even bigger deal than we're making of it. And as with many things, differences of opinion between people or families or political groups, what's the truth? It's probably somewhere in between those things. Is COVID-19 a hoax? There's incontrovertible evidence that says that no, absolutely, it's real and it's serious, and we're dealing with it. Is it a horrible, terrible thing that's instantly going to kill half of the population of the country? No, it's not that either. It's somewhere in between those two extremes. The other part of this that I want to address today is the actual question that the student asked, which is, what about the testing numbers? What about the mortality numbers? That means the number of people who have died. Are those accurate, or are they inaccurate or deliberately a lie? Again, I think the answer is somewhere in between the two extremes that we're thinking. I have heard some people say that everybody who's dying right now their death certificate says that they died of COVID-19, and they're taking people who die in car wrecks or from cancer, that if they test positive for COVID-19, they say, or if they don't, their certificates say that they died from COVID-19. I know some people in the healthcare industry who say that it's absolutely not true, that if a person tests positive for coronavirus but dies because of some other very clear issue, they are not counted in the COVID-19 numbers. However, if a person is already sick, whether it's heart disease or cancer or is in a car accident or whatever, I guess the car accident wouldn't really matter. But if a person is already very, very sick and they get COVID-19 and they do not survive the treatment for that, then it's obvious that that person would have lived longer, maybe significantly longer, if they hadn't been infected with the virus. And so in those cases, those people are counted in the numbers of people who are reported to be killed by COVID-19. They had pre-existing conditions, yes, but what killed them was the virus. On the other side of that, the idea that things are not being reported, like there are not enough COVID-19 cases being reported, either people who test positive or people who are hospitalized or people who are killed by COVID-19. Is that happening some? Probably that's also happening some, because we still don't test every human that has the sniffles. We still don't test everybody who might have COVID-19. There are lots of people who are asymptomatic. That means that they don't have symptoms of COVID-19, but they're still carrying and transmitting the virus. So are we aware of every single person in the United States who has the virus? No, I'm sure that we're not. And so that would serve to make the reported numbers lower than reality. So again, both of these are good points, and there are probably inaccuracies both ways. The truth is very likely somewhere in between that. And in the case of statistics, those things tend to balance each other out. Are there a few cases where people do not have or are not killed by COVID-19 that are reported as a COVID-19 mortality? Probably. Are there people who have COVID-19 who do not get added to those numbers? Absolutely. So those two things probably more or less cancel each other out. So I think that the numbers we're seeing are probably more or less accurate. I think that the bigger problem that concerns me with testing numbers right now is that there is a lot of disorganization regarding testing. There are lots of different companies or different organizations who test for COVID-19 report their findings in different ways, and it takes different lengths of time for them to do that. And so all of that information is being sent to, in the case of Arkansas, the Arkansas Health Department, and in turn to more national organizations. But some people are emailing a form, and some places
Teachers, I have two very important announcements. The first announcement is please remember during your prep to come to room 102 next to the seminar room to pick up your 504s and IEPs. Bring a pen if you can.
I remembered that.
If not, I have one that you can take with you. Also, please remember to bring your class list. Thank you for that. The second thing is, during second period, teachers, we will be doing a class count. I sent an email. I need for that to be done during second period today. Thank you very much.
I mean, I know they're necessary and important, but they're time consuming. And I'll be honest, it's a pain. I don't even remember where we were. Hold on. Oh, the disorganization of reporting. Some places report, some places test very quickly, other places the stuff doesn't come back for days. Some places report that as by phone or by fax, and some places do an online form. So there's this kind of disorganization regarding reporting, and so I think that, especially in Arkansas, is of bigger concern to me than deliberate inaccuracies in the numbers. This video is already too long, so I'm going to conclude it. There are a couple of other things related to COVID-19 that have been asked that I want to address tomorrow. How effective are masks? And something else I've forgotten, but those will be good to talk about tomorrow. So I hope you have a good day, learn lots, have fun, be good at something. I'm here if you need me.